So, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Destructive News Network, news no matter how destructive. We're going to be changing things up here on the channel, so look forward to that. We want to deliver a message. We want to create helpful education to people that didn't grow up in urban culture, didn't grow up in the hood, didn't grow up in chocolate cities, that are now kind of being forced to either get an understanding or being forced into urban culture, whether it be your young children have been indoctrinated in their public schools and they're teenagers now, and you're starting to have to deal with, you know, all of this new culture that's just seemingly coming out of nowhere. And you're like, what the heck is going on? I'm trying to build a tool to help you understand this popular culture that seems to be expanding in America and affecting everyone. So I want to do that in a way that's welcoming, not so aggressive, but don't worry, that content will still be available. But let's take a look. This is something, I think this is a building block of what we're talking about and where we're going. We're going to talk about what they call affordable housing today. Back in my day, years back, it was just called the projects. Now they're sprucing things up. They're making it colorful. They're giving things new terms to throw you off the trail. This is nothing more than an old school 1980s, 1970s ghetto or project housing unit. And there's an issue. There's some cities are starting to get tired of these things. They're starting to see that they're a source of crime. So let's take a look at the story to see what people are talking about.
Coming up on 708, protesters in West Philadelphia are fighting to stop the sale of an affordable housing unit, but they face a deadline today.
So this is private property owned by someone that has now decided that they want to sell the property, just like anyone can do. Myself, you, if you own something, you have the right to sell it. So the same thing applies to anyone and anything else, regardless of how much or little wealth that something or someone has.
Flynn has the details for us. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Shayna. Mike, that's what the judge has said. 9 o'clock. Just, well, listen, a little bit less than 2 hours from 9.
Just look at they've got tents set up in the courtyard. They've got, look, how much do you want to bet that this person right here does not live here? They don't live here. She's a glider lib who feels for the urban community, but wouldn't be caught dead living in the urban community. She only wants to use her guilt to help create an environment of death and destruction for others. Then she gets into her Honda Fit or her Prius, and she scoots back to the suburbs to her family home and escapes the everyday social crunch of the ghetto.
Right now, that's the deadline he set up for this tent city over here to go away. It is a protest.
Look at this. Come on, man. And you got people donating, buying these tents for these people. REI, co-op, come on. These tents are not cheap. These aren't found items. These are donated items. People are, again, like the glider that we saw sitting on the steps. They're using their money and they're buying this stuff to help them become a sore on the community, the people that actually live here.
Test encampment to protest the sale of University City Townhomes here at 40th and Market. Mike, Shayna, we got people here. Miss Maria's been here for 20.
Look at that building. Look at the roof. So look at that. Look at the siding here. We've seen way worse, obviously, but this is pretty bad. And I'm sure a lot of crime originates from this site.
25 years. Ms. Rhonda has been here for 19. We're talking about not just displacing people and putting people out. You're talking about changing lives. And Ms. Marie, talk to me a little bit about when you heard about the sale and what kind of a situation it put you in. Now, you heard about it a year ago. Am I wrong?
Right, that's
okay,
correct.
Tell me about it.
So this happened. This started, or at least she found out about this situation happening a year ago. So she's got a year head start. Most of us get 30 days, 30, 60 days before we've got to vacate property, you know, for whatever reason, rent rising, the building being sold, whatever. She's got a year. She's had a whole year. What could you do with a whole year heads up? Man, that I go back to my life, and if I had a year instead of 30 days, man, I would have loved, that would have been amazing. Shoot, give me 2 months. She got a whole year. All these people got a year.
We were unexpected at first.
Sure.
And
Look at the condition. I'm going to keep stopping the video because this is original content, and that's what we make here. Sorry, if you want to see the video uninterrupted, go check out the channel. But we make new content from this data. So we're looking at the community, the condition of the community, and some of the signs that we see. Well, we see an office building in the background here, and then we see this eyesore, iron gates, government green paint doors. It's like that old school army paint, that old school green army paint. A street, a parking lot that looks like it hasn't been cleaned in a couple of years.
we were upset the fact that we didn't know where we were.
Look at the roofs. They're stained. Looks like they need repair, replaced. We've got stains in windows. Looks like they need replaced.
And who's going to help us out, or whether we're going to go to shelters. So
infrastructure falling off the buildings. Broken blinds, the roofs looking pretty bad. Streets, debris, dirt. Not a ton of food, not a ton of food items and bags and random trash. So it looks like they do good on that. I don't know what that is. It looks like it might be a trash bag.
we didn't know which direction we were going to go a year ago.
Well, shelters.
I want to read the sign. Shame on you, Altman. Don't treat us like trash. Unshoveled, ice and snow, where our elderly walk. Overflowing sewage and stench, where our children play. Uncollected garbage for weeks. This is neglect. We ain't going nowhere.
I mean, what are your options, ugly as they might be? Do you have
the people's fight? As this lady walks down the street, what looks to be sugary expensive drink from a coffee shop. Doesn't look like
no,
Starbucks,
we didn't.
though.
We know there's city shelters. We know there's shelters, emergency shelter over here, but a lot of people.
Do you think she lives in this community? Do you think she lives in this community? Do you think these people live in this community? Do you think they live in this community? I don't know.
Upset,
I'm asking you.
And especially senior citizens like myself, very upset because of the fact that we a lot of things are waiting lists.
And they've changed it to, they've X'd out UC, the people's townhomes. So it's the people. So this is like straight up communism. There's a person who had a business who rented apartments, probably through a government program, and it was like affordable housing for probably, again, like these people said, like this lady's been there for 20, 30 years. This is not a permanent living situation. This is always temporary. This is for you to be able to easily integrate into society. So you come in maybe as an uneducated person, whether it be someone that was born here, or maybe you're an immigrant, you don't have the tools to jump in and get to work and start building a life for yourself. Not saying that it's not possible at that state, but that's typically what the original idea in the 80s anyways. Before the 80s, it was probably just about housing people that they just couldn't manage. But the more recent stuff from like the late 70s on up, these housing programs were built and designed to house people temporarily. This wasn't an end goal. This wasn't you live here for 50 years. You live here for 30 years. You live here for 20 years, 2, 3, 4 generations. That's not what the design of this stuff is for. This is temporary. This is to get you in. You're in the city. You have affordable living. You don't really have to worry about high rent prices, rising rent, because that's stable for you. Then what you do is you go to work and you build a life for yourself and your family. The problem is a lot of these people that live here, they didn't and don't want to build a life for themselves and their children. They want to just camp out. They're in retirement mode. The girls get it, and I've seen this. I've witnessed it. This is in my family. These girls, they will be teenagers that are their parents were teen parents. They go, oh, I'm going to get on the list as soon as I can. I'll have a baby at 14, 15 years old. I'll get on the housing list. And by the time I'm 17, 18, and my mom's tired of me and ready to kick me out with my 2, 3 babies, I now get a project apartment. I move into that apartment and proceed to screw up, proceed to drink, smoke weed, get pregnant, get on public assistance, get on other social programs, and live in that apartment for the rest of their lives, growing their children there. Those children being raised essentially in a commune of violence and drug abuse. Crime-infested neighborhood comes from those bad children. Those children grow up to become teenagers. They create more problems. They create gangs. They start selling drugs. They start going on drills. And it spreads through the area, causing problems for people that live there legitimately and causing problems for business and development. That's what goes on in these communities.
Naturally. Now, this is going to sound like a naive question. It's not, but you have these HUD vouchers.
So you got recreational vehicles, but you have to live here. Priorities, man. Priorities are not right. And look at these iron gates. Look at the tips of them. They're set up like spears. So when you try to jump them and you fall, you get impaled. Why is that? Because this is a crime-ridden neighborhood. The people in this neighborhood are often running from the police. When there's crimes committed and they run from the scene, they often run to these communities. All you have to do is go to A&E and watch First 48 and watch episodes and see what happens. What happens when there's a crime and they're chasing down the suspects. They always run to these types of communities and they hide and they get up in crawl spaces up in these roofs, and that's where they hide from the police.
Can't you just take them somewhere else and get an apartment somewhere else?
No, because right now they're giving us scatter sites, which is in the worst parts of Philadelphia.
So where you want to be? You want to be in the business district? That you want to take up housing space and bring your grandchildren who are criminals and gang members. And I'm not saying this person specifically. I'm talking about the ideal candidate for these communities. They're elderly. They've got grandkids. They've got kids that they neglected. Their grandkids are the criminals of today, and they're connected. They're rooted in these communities. This is their base. So she wants the city or whomever, working people, working class people, middle class, upper middle class, what have you, to take a little bit of their money, have it snatched away from them by the city, state, federal government, put into a fund so it can pay for her a place to live next door to them when they had to work hard and sacrifice to get what they have. She just wants it just because she wants it, and you should give it to them because, they're the people.
And we're like, no, I'm not going there because this is my home. This is my community.
It's not
right?
your home. It's not your community. You don't own anything there. None of this that you own.
Time. And the thing is that no, we're making a stand. We're not going anywhere. This is my home.
No, it's
Excellent
not.
job. Ms. Rhonda, you've been here for 19 years. You've raised children
She's
here.
young. This is a younger woman that's been in the projects for 20 years. I have people that I'm connected to that, they don't like me. They say, they say things about me. They talk about me. And I will look at that person and I'll say, in my mind, I'm thinking of a specific person, but, I'm not going to expose them. Their mother grew up in the 70s. Late 70s, when the government started to give opportunities to son people. Affirmative action hire, which I think was probably a great turning point. It's the reason why I'm sitting here talking to you right now. It was a great program that put a lot of gliders that were disconnected from the mainstream community, mainstream way of American life on a track to convert to that standard of living. And it helped my family tremendously. Gave both of my parents opportunities that they would have never had otherwise. I could have been out in the streets. I could have been a gang member. I could have been a drug addict affected by Reaganomics in the 80s. It's a possibility had it not been for the affirmative action in the late 70s, early 80s. But you had a lot of people, and people in my family included, that snubbed their nose up to that. An actual great reset. And they said, you know what? Screw that. I'm going to go and drink beers and hang out on the corner. This is quite literally what a handful of my family members, my elders, decided to do instead of building a family the right way with the tools that the government had provided. And this is what happened to them. They moved into the project housing units, lived there her whole life, a single parent, raising children. Those children get into the streets, get into trouble, get into problems, end up becoming criminals, gang members, drug addicts, stains on society. This is systematic. This happens throughout the community. This isn't some one-off thing. They try to wipe it away. Oh, here, not all, but most. Not all, but most. And these people sit here and they cry and complain after living a whole generation in the projects. Then another generation does the exact same thing. So you're 3 generations deep in this filth. And you're talking about my community, my home. You put in no sweat, tears. You have no skin, no investment in this community. You don't even pick up the garbage in your front yard. But yet you get on TV talking about my home and my community.
And the standard doesn't want to go anywhere. I can't imagine when this has been your home for as long. Now, legal as it is for the owner of this property to sell it, you got property, you want to buy or sell it, that's your prerogative. There's a lot.
So he puts that standard out there. So property rights, the ability to own and sell things, that's what's happening here. No one's being wronged here. And they've got a big heads up. They got a massive heads up. A year.
A lot of people hanging in the balance, people's futures, people's lives.
But we shouldn't be treated like we're less than.
Who's treating you that way?
The places that they're showing us is just inhabitable.
Okay. Why can't you go and get your own apartment? You've been here saving money on rent for 20 years by your own admission. Why don't you have enough money to pay the standard or average rent in the city that you live in after having a 20-year ride at reduced rent?
So, yeah, so to call, he has a right to sell, but give us more time. Give us.
How much time do you need? You got a year. How many more years do you want? You got 20. You got an additional 1. How many more years do you want?
Places to go. There's really nowhere for us to go. A lot of places aren't accepting vouchers.
Now,
after 20 years, you still need a voucher. After 20 years, you still need a voucher. Does all the jewelry around your neck require a voucher? Your earrings, your hair, you're getting your hair styled, your clothing, your accessories. Do those things require vouchers? Are those things necessary for you to survive? No. But the one thing that you need, the most important thing next to water, is shelter, and you don't have the funds for shelter.
Marie said is inhabitable.
Now, 9 o'clock is the 0 hour given for these tents over here, you all. When are you all being told that you all have to leave your homes?
So they got to go
The
today.
original date was July 8th. We got a little extension to September 7th, which is not enough time for all of us to find a place to live.
A year.
It's so true. I was like upset. I mean, who's going to find a place out here in 2 months? Come on.
You just said that you were told a year ago that they were selling the place. So now she's saying that she's only had, how are you going to find a place in 2 months? Ma'am, most people in the United States of America have 30 days. You get 30 days. 30. I dealt with a 30-day notice as a young man with very little resources. My bank account had less than $1,000 in it, and I owed credit card debt. I had credit card debt. Not a ton, a couple of $1,000, but if your net worth is negative, more than you have in your bank account, your savings account, that's a problem. And I was able to manage that just fine. Granted, there was a little stress, but I never once cried and complained to the federal government and talked about how things are unfair and I need more time. And I didn't do all that. That was the way things were. I need to figure this out. I got to work. These people don't want to do that. Rings all on every hand, accessoried up, but you don't have money for the average rent cost after 20 years of reduced rent. I find that really weird.
Who's going to find anything out here the way things are? This economy is like zooming. And if we go,
you've lived in this filth through every economic up and downturn that I've been alive for. Why haven't you saved any money to buy a house? Why haven't you saved any money to move out of this place and allow someone else to come in and take advantage of the programs? You're a program leech. You're not even, you're just in the way. There are tons of people out there that would love to have the chance to get a break on rent for a little while they build their savings up. These people get into here and then they're just like, all right, I'm good. I'm retired now. And they're 20 years old and they retire. They're done. Well, this is my home now.
Pay market value, we wouldn't be able to afford that. We're at a low income.
Who else?
And
everybody's on a low income. An overwhelming majority of Americans are low income. That's not an excuse.
That's exactly the point, Mike. Shana, low income, is part of the conversation, but I'm told by campers here and certainly residents here that fixed income is every bit a bigger part of the conversation. People, it's not that they're not able to make tons of money, it's that they necessarily can't because of disability or the fact that they might be 80 years old and past the point in their life where they're earning a ton of money. A lot of these folks can't earn any more than they're getting, and there really are a lot of questions as to where they're going to go past mid-September.
You think she lives here? I know she's kind of trying to dress the part, but here, see, she's got her book bag. She's got her kind of like dusty shoes, her dusty pants, her kind of frumpy shirt, but it's right here. It's the hair and the glasses and the way she holds her cup. Because I live in a suburban environment. And I know I see these girls all the time. The Karens, I see them all the time. I spend time with them. I'm around them all the time. I know the mannerisms. This isn't a mannerism of some broken down person that lives in the projects and is white. I don't see stress on her body. I don't see stress in her spirit at all. I see stress in that woman that they just interviewed. If we go back and we look at her, she looks stressed. She's holding herself stressed. Her shoulders are tense. She's guarded. She's worried. That woman does not look stressed, does not look worried, does not look guarded at all. She doesn't live here. She's not used to this environment. She's in a center area, 360 degrees of danger, potential danger, threat around her, and she seems fine because she's not familiar with this environment. She doesn't live here.
They might be 80 years old and past the point in their life where they're earning a ton of money. A lot of these folks can't earn any more than they're getting. And there really are a lot of questions as to where they're going to go past mid-September. Mike, Shane.
Yeah, they're kind of stuck.
Tough situation.
So, I don't know if you can even answer this. So who are the people in the tents? They're just people that don't live in those brick buildings. They're just
I've spoken with a couple of them. Yeah, well, yeah, activists and people that
told you. What did I tell you? I didn't watch this video ahead of time. I seen this video. I watched the first like 30 seconds. I stopped it and filmed. I'm telling you, I'm the real deal. I know these communities. I know this stuff. I've lived in these communities. My family was half of my family originated in this style of community after moving north from the south. Ended up in housing projects. I'm a child of housing projects. I know this stuff. I can tell by the stance of a person, the way they look, that they don't belong there. Those people, those gliders sitting on that in that center section, no one else is in that center section because you don't sit in a center section in a project housing unit unless you're a corner boy. There's too many ways to get ran down on sitting in the center of a housing project. The fact that they were sitting there told me that they ain't from there. The look of them, it's like they're trying to fit in, but they don't get it because they're not from there. They look ridiculous.
don't like to see what they're seeing here. They don't like seeing folks like Rhonda and Marie displaced, and they're out here trying to stand in solidarity with them.
I got you.
Okay.
Glider guilt. They stand in solidarity until it's time for them to move to their neighborhoods. You see, they ain't protesting saying, hey, move to my neighborhood, White Crest community. They're not going to go that. They don't want them living next to their parents. So where should they go? They don't have any answers. They don't have any solutions. No solutions at all. But we've got some more content to go over involving this housing thing, this housing crisis, so to speak. But I don't want this video to go too long. So I'm going to break it up a little bit out. So be on the lookout for the next videos that we cover on this Philadelphia UC People's Housing Community Crisis. So definitely hit the like, hit that share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.